the These Little Hands podcast, a knitting and sewing podcast where I talk about my projects and what I make. I haven't uploaded an episode in 4, maybe 5 years, I'm not too sure. And since that time I have got married. I moved countries from Johannesburg, South Africa to Bath in the United Kingdom, and I've had a baby, and there's also been a global pandemic. So it's been a busy few years, but I wanted to come back and share my projects, connect more with the knitting community again. I love watching podcasts. I've always loved to watch them, and especially now that I'm so far away from my family and my knitting friends in South Africa, I think it would be nice to connect in this way again. So I'm going to hop straight into it. My plan is to try and do bi-weekly podcasts, so every second week. And then I'm going to share with you some things from the archive, because I've been making a lot of things over the last couple of years that I think I can go back to and share, and showing you what I'm working on and showing you some future knitting plans. Not only knitting, sewing and crochet as well, because today I'm going to jump straight into it and share an addiction that has happened over the past year basically. So on Instagram there is a South African crochet designer that I've been following for a long time, and she released a pattern of an octopus a long time ago, and ever since I saw it I wanted to make it, but I've never had a reason or an excuse to justify making a gigantic octopus. So last year when my baby was born, she was born at the beginning of the first lockdown, and she was a very, very peaceful newborn. She slept a lot. So all of a sudden I had all of this time on my hands, and I wasn't in the right headspace for knitting. I don't know why, but I also knew quite a lot of people who were having babies in lockdown. And this designer, her name is Projectarian, has a pattern called Tiny Critters or something like that. I'll put the name at the bottom of the screen, and it is a pattern with 8 little animals in. They all have the same body shape, but then they have different heads. So I have 2 of them here that I made for Elena. All the other ones I gave away, but there are pictures on my Instagram of all of them. And I'll also link my Instagram handle here. It's just my name, Millicent Fullion, which I don't think I said at the beginning, so sorry. My name is Millicent Fullion. And then so this one is personally my favorite one of the 8, and it is a seahorse. And I made this with yarn that I had in my stash. It is heartlam yarn, hand dyed in South Africa with a bit of stellina in it, this one. And the head is cowgirl blues, I think in the vintage rose color and the coral color. And the eyes is just yarn that I had in my stash. So I made this one, and then I actually made 2 unicorns, because I made one and gave it away and immediately regretted it. So I made this little one, which we named Starla, for Elena as a Christmas stocking, and you can see they are really well loved already. They've been played with, they're not sitting on a shelf somewhere in her room. She plays with them, and this one I sewed on a little tutu, which was not part of the pattern, but so I made all of these little animals. So I made all 8 of them, and I made the unicorn twice. So I made 9. in practice for the octopus that I wanted to make. So then a whole year went by, and at the beginning of the year, I think in January, we went back into a hard lockdown. And I decided, okay, I need a project because I am going to go insane with the toddler in the house. She's no longer that small. She's not sleeping all the time. I need to keep myself busy. So we had a room in our house that we didn't really use. Yaku's, my husband's desk was in there. We had a spare single bed in there, but it wasn't really used. And we decided to turn that room into a toy playroom for Elena. So, and I used this as an excuse. We also watched the Oscar award-winning documentary, My Octopus Teacher, which I highly recommend everybody go and watch. It's the best thing I've ever seen. It's on Netflix, and I was completely convinced that now is the time to make this octopus. So I practiced all those little dolls, which is great. They're so quick to make. And then I did make this gigantic octopus. So there's 480 little suckers on here. And as you can see, she's quite big. So yeah, what can I say? I am in love and obsessed. I think I like it more than Elena does. She doesn't really play with it. It is in her playroom. But it does make the playroom look really cool, and there's some pictures of the playroom on my Instagram. I made some other things for the playroom as well. But yeah, so this is made out of sheepy's stonewash yarn. I don't recall all the colors I used, but it's all linked on my Ravelry page. This is the heavier one. So there's the sheepy's DK, and then there's a thicker one. So I used the thicker one because I saw on some of the projects that the stuffing was showing through. So I went up in yarn thickness, but I didn't go up in needle size. I used the recommended needle size, which gave me a really dense fabric, which I like. So this was actually so much easier than it looks, and a lot less intense than it looks. So it looks like a lot of work, but it went by so quickly, and I think it's because you just do the same stitch over and over again. So it's really quick. It takes you less than a minute to make one of these suckers. And yeah, I'm so obsessed with it, and I love it so much. So this is the one that I was aiming to make, and then I told myself, okay, I'm done. But after I finished this one, I enjoyed it so much that I decided I'm going to make another one of her projects. So this one is actually my favorite because it is so cute. And if you were a child in the late 80s or early 90s, you might recall a program called The Land Before Time, a beautiful children's story about dinosaurs, and one of the characters is called Sarah, and it's Triceratops. So this one I made with yarn that I also had in my stash from a South African hand dyer called Hartlam. She's one of my favorite hand dyers. And I had this yarn in my stash, and I never knew what to do with it because I didn't have quite enough for a sweater. I used it for things here and there. And then I decided this was the perfect project. So you will see that the head and the front legs is the same yarn as this one, and then the back legs and the back of the head is the blue one. So they're very similar, but it's not the same yarn, and I decided to fade them into each other, which I think worked out really well. So the head was made completely in the lighter color, and then I started the front legs in the lighter color and blended them in at the top on both sides, and then I blended in this headpiece at the top. So I think it turned out really well, and she's so squishy and really, really cute. So yes, I actually forgot about one other little one this is also a project by Projectarian, a pattern by Projectarian. So this one is a free pattern called Hubble the Squid, and this was actually the first one I made, and I made this when I was still pregnant with Elena. I've made 2 of them. I've also given one away as a gift, and there was little pom-poms on here, but they have fallen off and got lost because it's also well loved and played with. But this is a free pattern, so if you want to give crochet a go, it's great to use up scraps of yarn. It's great. It's so quick. It's also good, I think, for your brain to try practice something different with your hands. Initially, it felt a little awkward to me after the knitting, but I think it's a good break in the knitting for me. And it's very rewarding because you have finished objects really quickly. If you're a garment knitter like me, it takes a long time to have a finished object. So so this is my new current obsession. There is quite a few more, not by the same designer, but I will share them in some future episodes. But you're welcome to go and have a look at my Instagram at the others of these little friends that I've made. Okay, so that is what I wanted to share in terms of finished objects. And then I'm going to share one of my current whips with you. I am a notorious multiple project knitter. I cannot only work on one project at a time. I'm trying to give myself sort of goals it depends a little bit on the stage. Last year when lockdown was so hard and it was just me alone here with my baby because my husband worked throughout the pandemic, I did weekly goals where I set out every week what I was going to make. But I started working again in January. I don't work full time, but I do work part time, and it does take up quite a bit of my time. So now I have set out sort of a 3-month goal for myself, that I work on these projects for 3 months, try and finish them, and then maybe start something new, because I do like that. I'm always inspired. I always want to start new things. And making is supposed to be fun, so I don't want to be too restrictive with myself. But this pattern is something that when it was released, I was obsessed with. So the pattern is called Once and Floral by Max the Knitter, and all his patterns are amazing. And this is how far I am. So if you're familiar with the pattern, you will know that it is not exactly the way the pattern is. So the original pattern behind the roses also has almost like a triangular shape and a little line under here. So I decided to omit that purely because I didn't find a color that I liked, that I thought worked really well. And the background color that I'm using is by Dell's yarn in the color Max's Camo, and I'm just so obsessed with this yarn. And I felt that if I put the triangles behind, it's going to take away from this beautiful camo yarn. Normally I'm not into camo, but I'm just so obsessed with it. So I finished the collar already, and I am knitting it just as the pattern says. I think I'm knitting the size small on the same needles. The other thing that I did is with this the roses, it is a single merino single. Because it's a little bit thinner than the other 2 yarns, I actually held it double to make the roses stand out a little bit more, and that was a bit of an experiment, but I think it worked really well. So the roses are more dense than the rest of the sweater, which makes them really pop, and I think that worked out really well. All the yarn that I used for the roses and for the leaves is on my Ravelry page. I don't recall what they are now, and I've already packed them away because I'm finished with them. But I am obsessed with this sweater, so I'm hoping to finish it within the next 2 months, so that I can wear it. And this is my most, I don't want to say my most favorite work in progress, because I do like all my other projects as well, but I think this is the one I'm most excited to wear, and I think it would go really well with my wardrobe. I'm also really liking this new style. I don't know if it's new, but it's definitely new to me, this fold over collar that all the sweaters are coming out with. It just makes for such a neat sweater. So that is that. I'm also planning to, I have enough of this yarn so that I can make a hat and mittens for Yaku for Christmas, but there you can see it up close. And the base is actually a blue face Leicester base, I think. Let's have a look. So this is the BFL sock, so blue face Leicester sock yarn. So it's 80% blue face Leicester wool and 20% nylon. This is the yarn. So I'm going to make a hat and mittens for Yaku for Christmas. So that is my one work in progress. And then the last thing I can share with you is what I'm wearing. I am wearing one of the things that I probably wear the most of everything I've made in the past year. It's I didn't iron it this morning, but I am wearing it almost all the time. It's perfect for the weather here in England. So it's the MARLO sweater by True Bias. I made the longer version, so you can see it is it hits me sort of mid-thigh, and I used Sherpa fabric, and I just used a cream jersey fabric, and these cream buttons that I had in my stash. Very simple pattern, very straightforward. There's a short version and a long version. I'll probably make a short version as well for the winter. I just wear it so much. The Sherpa I use, I must say, is not the best quality Sherpa. So I would suggest that if you want to recreate this in any way, or if you buy Sherpa, to buy a better quality, because this one does sort of want to split a little bit. So I had to reinforce the seams really well, but it washes easily, and the jersey fabric I got from Fabric Godmother, so it's really, really good quality jersey, but very straightforward to make, nothing intense. I did everything on my overlocker, so it was a really, really quick. The only thing to be mindful of is to do the pockets neatly. What I probably would do, and I'm wondering if they did say it in the pattern and I just didn't do it, is I would probably put interfacing in here, so that, because it's stretch, and I use the pockets, it does wear out a little bit, you see. So I would probably put non-stretch interfacing here in the pocket to keep it nice and neat. So there we have it. This is a short and sweet episode. I'm hoping to keep them short and sweet so that I can do updates more regularly, but I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to connect with my fellow South African knitters again, but also hoping to connect with some knitters here in the UK. Because of the pandemic, there is a lovely knit group that I used to go to before the pandemic, but of course that is now a little bit more difficult, and now that I have a baby, it is impossible for me to go because my husband still works when it is knit group time, so and it falls over her bedtime, so I can't go to that anymore. But I am very lucky to have two beautiful local yarn stores here in Bath, which really makes me happy, and I am happy to be back. See you soon. Bye.